And before we start any webinar at Royal Roads, we always like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Cossepsum and the Lekwungen ancestors and families who've lived here for thousands of years. And as well, I'm working from home, and I'm also on the lands of the Cossepsum and the Lekwungen ancestors and families. So very, very grateful to be able to do the work that we do here every day. And today we're going to be talking about the Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies. So my name is Shelley Jones. I'm an education advisor with the university, and I'm joined by Dr. Shelley Jones, who is the program head.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
So today we'll be going over a brief overview of the Royal Roads University experience and what it's like to be a student with us. We digging into some program information, the application process and requirements, and then taking your questions, of course. And you don't have to wait till the very end of the presentation to ask any questions. Feel free to just pop any questions you have into the chat box as they come up. Chances are that if you're thinking of a question, somebody else is too, so don't be shy with that. Alrighty, so to dig into who we are a little bit and what we value. So we have a very personalized experience here at Royal Roads. So that brings us to our first point, first names first. So I know at some other universities, I know, for instance, in my undergrad degree, I memorized my student number, and that was something I went by every day at the university. But there is no need to do that whatsoever when you're at Royal Roads. Anybody you communicate with, whether obviously it's your professors and your classmates, but also anybody who's here to help at the university, like our student services, financial services, anything like that. It's always on a first names first basis. Next, learn together forever. So we go by a cohort model in a lot of our programs at Royal Roads, and that means that you start your program with the same group of people that you continue with throughout until the very end. And this creates this really awesome bond with this group of people that lasts far beyond your educational experience into your personal life and your professional life as a network that you can draw on. And as well, we do a lot to foster those relationships, even in programs that don't have a cohort. You're always working with other people and learning from them. Next, life is also an education. So this is a reference to our flexible admissions model, which we'll be getting into a little bit more at the end of the presentation, but it means that we really like to look at who you are holistically and not just what your transcript says when you're applying to the university. We like to know your whole life experience, and we value that as part of your experience as coming into the program. And then lastly, our real world classroom. We have here what we like to call scholar practitioners who teach you throughout your programs. So anybody that you learn from is either going to be doing current work and or research in the field. So that means that anything you're learning throughout your program is very current, and it's going to be able to help you address the real problems that we're experiencing in our world through your career. And we're also an Ashoka U Changemaker campus. So this is a designation that a select number of universities have received, and it means that the type of education that we provide is very interdisciplinary, it's very entrepreneurial, it's very solutions oriented. So that is the kind of experience that we like to provide, and being really adaptive with the needs of the world today. If you haven't visited our campus, here's a little bit of a look at some of the images. Many of us are still working from home right now due to the pandemic, so I miss being here as much as probably you do if you visited before and gotten to see these grounds. So the top left-hand corner there is Hatley Castle. It's really a focal point of our university. It was built in the early 1900s and is still used today in normal times as a working building for our staff. We also hold events there. It's used for other things like film sets and purposes like that, but it's really an iconic building on our campus. And to the right there is a Esquimalt Lagoon. Right past the castle on the other side, you would be facing the ocean. So we have this beautiful space where you can go and view some wildlife, just get some peace and quiet. It's a bird sanctuary, so it's a really stunning part of our campus. And then we're also on over 500 acres of old growth forest. You can see a little piece of it on the bottom left-hand corner with Charlie's Trail, which is a really beautiful trail that starts at the top of our campus and goes all the way to the bottom. So there's lots of trails to explore if you are visiting us and you really like to get out into the nature. And then the bottom right-hand corner is just an ode to the fact that we have been doing online learning for 25 years. So whether you get to come on campus for a visit, For classes, for a residency, or you're taking more online courses with us, that is something that has been a part of who we are since day one. And we are really, really proud that we've been able to provide that for our students, especially in this time that we've been experiencing. So whether or not you're taking classes with us on campus, when it is safe to do so, we invite you to come for a visit. And to dig into our online learning a little bit more, we have also what we call blended learning, which is a mix of both the online and the on-campus. What online learning looks like with us is a very actively facilitated course where you'll be able to have constant dialogue with your classmates, with your teacher, and be able to really feel like you're getting that connection like you would. We use Moodle 3.0, which honestly, if you've used any social media platform like Facebook or Instagram or anything, you'll definitely be able to manage this platform as well. And then there's lots of active supports that are there to help you. So we have an amazing IT team, we have a writing center, a library, research and academic strategy and counseling, and that includes online appointments. So you have a whole database of different things that you can draw on to help you throughout your journey with whether that's writing papers, presentations, working with teams, and things like that. And then on campus, so we do have some fully on campus programs, or we do have residencies, which we've adapted to be able to happen virtually due to the pandemic. But in normal times, these would happen in person and they'd be an immersive learning experience where you get to have lots of time for relationship building with your cohort and you would stay on campus. So we do have accommodation on campus where people can stay when they are visiting, which is super handy for the residencies. And it's a great highlight as part of your program. And now I would like to hand it off to Dr. Shelley Jones to take us through the program structure for the Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Yeah, so we'll get started. And really, thank you again for joining us today. I always find these webinars interesting and get very excited about the whole program because it's a program for people who are looking for something that's a little bit different than a typical undergraduate program, one that's more tailored to what your own particular interests and focus areas are. So, for example, students who in the past who have joined the BASE program have typically had an interest in communication studies or justice studies, business, environmental practice and science. These are just a few of the areas in which people have been interested in develop their programs. So it's really about looking at the intersections of the various disciplines and how we can look at environmental and social and economic issues more holistically, how you can develop a program that will suit your particular career aspirations, because we understand in these days and in the 21st century particularly that the interdisciplinary aspect of work and of looking at complex issues is really important. So that's what we're trying to foster and develop through the program. And many students come into the BASE program that have had some experience in areas that they're very interested in and have then developed an interest in another area which complements that, and they would like to explore that more, or they're being drawn towards related but maybe slightly different area of work and need some more background experience or learning in that area. Or some come directly from doing 2 years of undergraduate programming, first and second year somewhere else, and they go, oh, I'm interested in doing an interdisciplinary study program which focuses in this area. So it's pretty wide open and lots of opportunities for you as a student to develop your program in consultation with our advisors. So it's innovative, it's flexible. It also has opportunities for you to take up to 12 credits while you're in the program from other institutions. Maybe we don't have the particular courses that you're looking for, but you can take those elsewhere and then integrate them into your program. From accredited institutions, obviously, and also with the permission from the program head. Okay, next slide. So the structure of BAYS, it's very personalized. You develop your program in consultation with our program advisor, as well as with the program head, and at the moment I'm the program head. So we look at what your interests are, what courses would best suit your kind of program, possibly looking at external courses. As I mentioned, up to 12 credits you can bring in. It can be taken completely online, so many people are continuing to work full-time while they take the BAYS program. It can be a blended model where you can come and do a residency on campus, of course, when the pandemic restrictions ease up. You can take on-campus courses in the programs that we offer on-campus programs. So it's really pretty open in terms of access. And we have BAYS students who are based all over the map, whether in Canada or internationally. So you can take the BAYS program from anywhere. The structure of the program is you begin with 3 mandatory courses. INDS 300, which is writing across disciplines. This introduces you to the kind of writing that you'll need in the different disciplines, because the writing does change. Well, the sort of emphasis on the writing structure changes from discipline to discipline, and so it introduces you to, for example, what kind of writing might be expected in a justice studies program versus what kind of writing might be expected in a communications program or maybe an environmental science program. So it's preparing you for an interdisciplinary approach and proficiency with writing. The INDS 310 is Introduction to Interdisciplinary Studies, and similarly, it's looking at how do you make these connections between disciplines? How do you become interdisciplinary in your thinking, in your approach, in your presentation, in your research? So this is a course that is setting you up to begin to look at, to begin to learn in other disciplines, but then mesh them together in ways that make sense. And the third mandatory course we have is INDS 400, which is Global Perspectives on Indigenous Ways of Knowing. And as I'm sure you know, increasingly, we're becoming aware as a global society that there are many different ways of knowing, and it's important to then recognize what those different ways of knowing are and how they contribute to knowledge creation in our world at this time, particularly in the time of truth and reconciliation, and our commitment to working closely with Indigenous peoples. So then following these 3 courses, you will take 42 credits at the 3rd and 4th year levels in academic specializations. And again, during this time, you're able to transfer in up to 12 credits from other institutions if there are courses that they're offered that appeal to you and that we may not have an equivalent for. And then finally, at the end, you'll have 9 credits, which are taken for your professional focus. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So your program total is 60 credits. We also have a BAYS internship, which is an elective. And depending on where you are in your career or what your interests are, this is an interesting option. It can be unpaid or it can be paid, and it can be taken anywhere in the world. It can be online, it can be in person, and it's really an opportunity for you to gain real life experience in an area that you're interested in under the supervision of someone within an organization or an institution who is willing to oversee your internship. And you will be earning credits, 6 credits for real life immersion into a particular area. So if you're particularly, I would say, early career, or you're looking at pursuing a slightly different career and require a little bit more experience or understanding about what's involved, this is an excellent option for you. We have had lots of people do many different interesting internships, and they have learned a great deal, and that's been very helpful for them in terms of pointing them in a direction or advancing their career in a direction that they would like to go in. So again, it can be online, it can be anywhere in the world, it can be in person. And there's a specific number of hours that you're expected to contribute to this, and certain requirements that go along in terms of written and for assessment purposes. But I would highly recommend it if you are looking at a new career, or you're new in your career, or you're looking at to change your career. And finally, we get to the professional focus courses. And these courses are, you're working individually with a supervisor who has expertise in the particular area that you are, or the particular focus area that you have. So there's 2 courses. There's INDS 417 and there's INDS 490. And the independent study, INDS 417, is essentially is a precursor. It sets you up for the INDS 490, the senior research paper project. And in 417, you work with your supervisor to determine a reading list, do some secondary research into something that is of interest to you, and that your supervisor has expertise in and can guide you through. And then building on that, in INDS 419, the senior research paper project, you are working closely with your supervisor to develop your research paper or project. It can be a primary project, or it can be secondary research paper. And this gives you an opportunity to dig deeply into something that's of interest to you, so that you can come out of the program not only having done courses in the area of focus, but you've also done a deeper dive into the literature and the research in this area, which gives you an advantage because you do have a more focused program that you've developed specifically for a particular area. So then you graduate with a sound immersion in applied and social sciences. You have earned or gained undergraduate bachelor competencies, the writing, the reading. You've learned applied research skills, and you've had a professional focus immersion that sort of guided your path, and work closely with experts in your field. So this would be a typical schedule. You begin, if you can, hopefully you can read this. At the beginning, it's ITAI, which is the Introduction to Academic Integrity. Everyone at Royal Roads must take and pass this course. It's non-credit, but it's essential in terms of setting you up for success in terms of academic integrity. So learning, rules and guidelines around plagiarism, use of other people's material, just general guidelines in terms of how to conduct yourself in a scholarly manner. And the first 3 courses here, the mandatory ones, we have INDS 300, Writing Across Disciplines, INDS 310, Introduction to Interdisciplinary Studies, and the INDS 400, the Global Perspectives on Indigenous Ways of Knowing. Then in this middle section here, you've got your academic specialization. So this is where you could take courses in justice studies or environmental studies or business or tourism and hospitality, leadership. There's a whole range. And this is also where you could go and take courses from other institutions and transfer them in as well. So this is the sort of elective core component of your program. And then you have, we have some BASE electives, which include the internship, which I mentioned. And we also have an LGBTQ2S and global issues and community engagement course, which is an elective from BASE specifically. And then finally, you reach your professional focus, which is where you're working one-on-one with a supervisor. So INDS 417, which is your independent study, and then INDS 490, which is your research paper or project. So a sample program, maybe you are interested in a focus on social justice and communication, and you're interested in a career in an NGO or a nonprofit. So maybe you want to work in the nonprofit government sector in the area of women and First Nations issues. And you come to RRU looking at the BASE program, and maybe you have 60 credits from another institution. So first and second year courses. You would then, after you were admitted to the BASE program, you might then consider taking courses in the area of communication, in the area of justice studies, all of the things that you are looking for in terms of what might be useful for your future career. The other thing that's interesting about the BASE program is that you can declare an area of concentration. And this will be included, if it's approved by the program head, on your university transcript. So for example, you might say you'd like a BA in Interdisciplinary Studies with a concentration in sustainability and leadership, or maybe a concentration in communication and environmental practice. This will really depend on you if you're interested in having that on your transcript. And then also, depending on what your focus areas are, you can suggest what that might be.
Perfect. Thank you, Shelley. So that brings us to our application period or application section of the presentation. If you do have any questions that have come up about the program specifically, now would be a great time to pop them in the chat box. I did have a few questions submitted ahead of time that I thought I would read out and see if we can give an answer. So is there the possibility of taking self-paced online courses throughout this winter and summer before the program starts in September? And then I'm guessing applying those credits to BASE.
You'd have to check with admissions. I think maybe you could possibly do that through taking general studies courses, and you wouldn't be actually registered in the BASE program until September. But I will leave that to someone in admissions to answer.
Okay, perfect. And actually that was the only one that was submitted ahead of time. But like I said, if any other questions have come up, we are here to help answer them. So to start us off, I'll take us through what the standard admissions looks like. So that would include a diploma or 60 credits in the arts or sciences fields of study, minimum of 24 second year credits with a minimum GPA of a B from a recognized post-secondary institution. And then applicants who meet the degree requirements, but not the GPA requirements, will normally be required to take an academic writing and critical thinking course and to achieve a B grade in that. And we've heard from people who have taken that course that it is actually quite useful and sets them up well to continue on in the rest of the program, especially if you've been out of school for a number of years. There can be a lot of nuance and things to do with research and writing and citations and things like that that can be new to you again, that this course can be helpful with. And then flexible admissions. So if you don't meet the requirements of our standard admissions, I wouldn't worry too much yet because we do have our flexible admissions yet. So what that looks like is normally 3 to 5 years of professional experience in a related field. The ability to demonstrate the competencies expected of a graduate with a 2-year degree in the arts or sciences. And this is assessed on a case-by-case basis. So if you aren't too sure where you fit in, on the admission spectrum, we welcome you to reach out to our enrollment team. Rhonda is here in the chat box today, which I forgot to introduce her here, but she is there to help answer questions as well. And she provided her contact if you do want to get in touch with her and explore a little bit more what that could look like for you. And then how to apply. So there is a online application fee of $126.28 to start off the process. And then some of the supporting documents you will need are your official transcripts, which need to arrive to us sealed from whichever previous institutions you have attended. So I always like to say, if you are curious to know what your grades were, if it's been a little while since you've been out of school, it's always a good idea to get one set of transcripts delivered straight to yourself so you can take a look at those, because we do need to have the transcripts sent directly and sealed when they arrive to us. And then the proposed course schedule. So that is what Shelley was discussing earlier on in the presentation, that you work with the school to develop your course schedule to go along with your application. And then if you're applying under flexible admissions, there's a few other documents that we will need from you. The first one is a detailed resume. So this can be quite a bit longer than your typical job application resume. I would say it can be as long as you need to really communicate all of your experience that you have, that you would like to have represented in your application, whether that's obviously educational experience, professional experience, but anything like volunteer, or if you want to speak to specific projects that you've been a part of and worked on, this is a great place to add that information. And then to go with that is a personal statement, also called a statement of intent. So this is a great document for you to really put down onto paper why you want to take the BAYS program, what you envision being able to do with it in your career in the future, why you'd be a good fit for the program. Anything that you would like to share in there that really speaks to your eligibility, this is a great place to do it. And it's also a nice document to really reiterate for yourself why you want to be a part of the program and how it's going to help your goals moving forward. So I had to write one of these as well, because I have taken a different program at Royal Roads, and I actually did enjoy the process of really being able to put my mind into why this is important for me to take. Shelley, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add on what you would look for in that type of personal statement?
No, but I think I'd reiterate what you said. It does provide an opportunity to um, focus on what your interests are and what you're hoping to achieve through the program. And I think that that can be instrumental in developing your program and helping with the selection of your courses, as well as your area of focus. So instead of seeing it as additional work, I think look at it as an opportunity really to crystallize for yourself what it is that you're hoping to achieve, and I think that helps with the direction of your program.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last item here is 2 letters of reference. So it is ideal if those come in the form of one professional and one educational reference, but there is a little wiggle room if you've been out of school for a number of years or circumstances like that. And again, with those, it's best if those come directly from the person who is referring you. The ideal is if it comes from a professional email address as well, so we can verify their authenticity. Some key dates. So the next intake for the program is September 13th, 2021, and then the application deadline is June 13th, 2021. So it's still a while off, but the date can approach very quickly. So if you do want to apply for the next intake, it's great to start thinking about the process, start your application, or start kind of figuring out some of the things that you would need to organize for returning to school and what that would look like for you. More. And then financial aid. So this is a crucial component of planning your educational journey. And we have an amazing team that is here to help with the whole process. So we have their contact there listed below. They also have a great and very helpful blog that you can find on our website too. I reached out to this team when I was applying for my program to go back to school, and they were super helpful and found some solutions for me for extra funding, helped me with my student loan application and things like that. So definitely it doesn't hurt to reach out and see what is available to you. And also I would say with Royal Roads, we have a smaller student body than some other schools. So that means you actually have a pretty good chance of getting some of these funding opportunities. So it does not hurt to apply. Some of them actually even go unclaimed some years if they just don't have people apply or not enough people apply and things like that. So definitely reach out to them. And then there is our enrollment team. Of course, Rhonda is one amazing example of our enrollment advisors, but we also have their contact information there to reach out to them for the more general email. And then if you would be applying as an international student, we have their email contact as well. So they are really, really helpful in helping you navigate your own personalized situation and being there to, answer any questions that you might have along the way. And with that, I will do a last call for questions if anything has come up. Alrighty, let's see. Jonathan is asking, I'm wondering about support in finding professional connections as I'm looking for a program that leads into employment. Also, what number of grads are you who are employed in the field they were studying for? Those are some great questions. So support in finding professional connections. I will say that we do have a whole careers team at the university that can start to help you with navigating the what happens after you graduate your program questions and things like that that are very supportive and might be a good team for you to reach out to. Shelley, do you have any thoughts on this?
What I hear constantly is that people make connections through their courses with other students, particularly, and with their instructors. Most of our instructors work in their fields as well, so you're networking through the courses that you're taking by getting to know the instructors, but also because so many of our students are working professionals. The networking really expands throughout the program. And I think this is one of the huge strengths actually at RRU is people are always commenting on how important that aspect of the education was learning from each other, learning from their peers who are working professionals, but also learning from their instructors who are also working in their fields. So so many of the instructors, it's unlike a lot of typical, say, large research universities where the instructors are academics first and foremost. There's many instructors at RRU who are professionals in their field. So, and they're bringing their expertise as well as their connections and networking into their courses. So there's that. And most, I would say, in terms of the base program, we've had a range of students, some fairly young, coming from maybe a 2-year university or diploma program, and also some who are older students who have been working in their careers for many years. So it's been a range, but most of the students who have come through the base program have gone on to continue or to find work in areas that are of interest to them and that are relevant to what they studied in the base program.
Yeah, and I see Rhonda pop the link into our career development site as well. You might want to check out. As far as number of grads who are employed in the field they were studying for, I'm not sure we have a specific number on that because I'm not sure if we've had a full picture of the survey from alumni who've communicated with us about their careers and kept us up to date with that, unless I'm forgetting about something, Shelley.
think so. I mean, I'm not sure if we have any data, but I would also maybe recommend, there were a couple of Bayes webinars done prior to this one where we did have former Bayes students, and they talked about the relevance of the program to their careers, and also what you're talking about in terms of professional networks. So that might be of interest to Jonathan.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I can actually share some of the previous recordings that we've done when I send the follow-up email for this webinar. So then you can check those out and you can hear a little bit more from them, because that is super helpful too. And then Rhonda's also
Mhm.
just said that she can arrange for an alumni contact. If you do want to speak with some alumni one-on-one and ask them some questions, feel free to reach out to her and she can help organize that for you.
Mhm. And yeah, there's probably, if we know the area that you're interested in, we may be able to also connect you with somebody who could possibly answer some questions.
Yeah, narrow that down a little bit.
Mhm.
But awesome questions. And if there's any other questions, just to follow up from Jonathan, I'm keen on studying at RU and excited about the possibility of networking. I'm interested for specifics for my labor market research. Perfect. And thanks for the info session. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I will say there's also one more thing. There's various clubs and associations you can become a part of as a student at Royal Roads too. So I've found that helpful when I've been going to school in the past, is just finding other ways to get involved outside of your program too, with supports that are in clubs and things like that that are offered at the university. There's lots of different ways for you to find a way to get involved, network with your peers and people at the university and within the community at large. So definitely lots of opportunities, and we're really excited for you to be looking into our program here. And with that, I think we are going to come to a close for our webinar today, but I would like to thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to our support team here, Imera and Rhonda, for helping out behind the scenes. And of course, Shelley, for providing all of the wonderful program information that you shared with us today.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.